Judge Matthew Crane stood at the peak of power. In the courtroom, he was untouchable, a figure wrapped in authority, his deep voice delivering verdicts that shattered lives or secured freedom. With over 20 years on the bench, Crane had developed a reputation as a no-nonsense judge. His words carried weight, and his decisions shaped the city's legal landscape. Lawyers feared him, defendants dreaded him, and the media praised his unwavering commitment to justice. But behind the polished image and carefully composed expressions was a man who had long stopped believing in the law he was sworn to uphold. Matthew Crane's corruption didn't start with bribes or secret meetings. It started with ego. Over the years, the lines between justice and personal gain blurred until they disappeared completely. Politicians came to him for favors, wealthy criminals paid for lenient sentences, and business elites received rulings that conveniently protected their interests. The money flowed quietly, hidden in offshore accounts and dummy corporations. No one dared question him. He was the gatekeeper of justice, and he used that role to build a kingdom of influence and silence. His personal life, however, was a carefully guarded fortress. Crane was married to a woman from a prominent family, with 2 sons in college and a mansion in the upscale suburbs. To the outside world, he was a man who had everything: wealth, respect, and stability. But inside, he was restless, bored, and constantly searching for new ways to feel powerful. The courtroom no longer gave him the thrill it once did. The corruption had become routine. What he craved now was control over something, or someone, fresh, unspoiled, and unaware. Across the city, Zuri Malone was starting her journey in the legal field. At 26, she had fought hard to earn a position as a paralegal in the district court. Coming from a modest background, Zuri was proud of her achievements and determined to one day become a defense attorney. She was sharp, ambitious, and hopeful. She believed in the law, in fairness, and in justice. For her, working near the city's most powerful judges felt like a dream. When she was assigned to assist with filings in Judge Crane's courtroom, she saw it as an opportunity to learn from the best. Zuri's presence didn't go unnoticed. Crane observed her quietly at first, her focus, her efficiency, the way she carried herself. She reminded him of a time when he believed in the law too, before the rot set in. But admiration quickly turned into something darker. He began finding reasons to keep her around longer, requesting her help for tasks that didn't really require her, watching her when she wasn't looking. Zuri, flattered by the attention, didn't see the warning signs. To the court, she was just another staff member. To Crane, she was his next secret. What started as a spark of interest was about to become an obsession, one that would drag Zuri into a world of lies, fear, and ultimately tragedy, long before she realized how deep the trap had been set. The connection between Judge Crane and Zuri quickly moved beyond the boundaries of professionalism. What had begun as casual compliments and small favors soon turned into secret meetings behind closed doors. Crane invited Zuri to his private chambers, pretending it was to guide her career. But the truth was far more complicated. In those quiet moments, away from the watchful eyes of the courthouse, a dangerous and forbidden affair took root. Zuri, young and ambitious, found herself drawn into a relationship with a man far older and far more powerful. His influence was intoxicating, and for a while it made her feel important and valued in ways she hadn't experienced before. The affair was a carefully hidden secret. Zuri kept it locked away from her friends and family, fearful of the consequences if anyone found out. Judge Crane was married and had a family, But that did not stop him. The power imbalance was undeniable. He controlled her career, her future, and soon, her emotions. At first, she believed he cared for her deeply, but gradually the reality surfaced. This was a man used to controlling everyone around him, and she was no exception. Despite the secrecy, the relationship was intense. Their meetings grew more frequent, and the risks multiplied. Zuri began to notice changes in Crane's behavior. He could be charming and caring one moment, but then cold and distant the next. His temper flared when she questioned him or asked for clarity about their future. She saw a darker side of him, the side that demanded obedience without question. Yet she stayed, caught between fear and hope. The turning point came when Zuri discovered she was pregnant. It was a moment filled with shock, confusion, and fear. She hadn't planned for this, and she certainly hadn't imagined what it would mean for her life. The news shook her to the core. When she told Crane, his reaction was nothing like what she expected. Instead of comfort or support, he withdrew. The man who had once seemed so powerful and confident suddenly became distant and cold. He refused to acknowledge the pregnancy publicly and warned her to keep it a secret at all costs. Zuri's hopes began to crumble. The relationship that had once seemed like an escape became a trap. She was alone, carrying a secret that could destroy both their lives. Crane's warnings were clear. If she revealed the truth, there would be consequences, legal, personal, and possibly worse. Zuri felt trapped by his threats and his power, unsure of who to trust or where to turn. The pregnancy transformed everything. Zuri started to see the full extent of Crane's corruption and cruelty. His public image of fairness and justice was nothing but a mask. Behind closed doors, he was a man who would do anything to protect himself, even if it meant destroying the life growing inside her. The fear that gripped her was real and constant. The man she had once admired had become a nightmare she couldn't escape. As the weeks passed, the tension grew. Zuri's world was shrinking, controlled by a man who refused to take responsibility for his actions. The secret affair had become a source of danger, and the future was uncertain. She knew she needed to find a way out, but the price of freedom seemed higher than she could pay. The affair was no longer just forbidden, it was deadly. As the days passed after Zuri's pregnancy was revealed, the fragile tension between her and Judge Crane grew heavier. Crane's carefully constructed world was now at risk of collapse, and he was desperate to keep everything under his control. The judge was no stranger to manipulating people, but Zuri's situation was different. This time, it wasn't just a matter of hush money or a quiet threat. It was a secret that could destroy his entire career and expose years of hidden corruption. He needed to silence her, and fast. Crane's first move was to pressure Zuri into keeping the pregnancy a secret. He promised her money, career advancement, and protection if she stayed quiet. But beneath these promises lay thinly veiled threats. He made it clear that if she spoke out, her life and future would be ruined. The judge had allies everywhere, in the police force, among politicians, and within the justice system itself. To him, Zuri was a problem to be managed, not a person with rights or hopes. Despite the fear and isolation, Zuri refused to be controlled. She knew she needed to protect herself and her unborn child. Quietly, she began to collect evidence against Crane. She recorded their conversations whenever she could, capturing his threats and his lies. She copied confidential court documents she found in his chambers, files that revealed bribery, tampering, with cases and illegal deals made behind closed doors. Every piece of evidence was carefully stored on a hidden USB drive she kept with her at all times. Zuri also reached out to a trusted journalist anonymously. Through coded messages, she hinted at the growing scandal inside the courthouse. The journalist, sensing the gravity of the information, began investigating but lacked solid proof to publish a full story. Zuri knew she was running out of time. She had to find a way to expose the truth before Crane could act against her. Meanwhile, Crane grew suspicious. He noticed changes in Zuri's behavior. The late nights, the secretive phone calls, the nervous glances. Using his influence, he hired a private investigator to follow her movements and dig into her life. The investigator's reports confirmed Crane's worst fears. Zuri was preparing to fight back. Worse still, she had evidence that could topple him. Fearing exposure, Crane escalated his efforts. He began using intimidation tactics. Unmarked cars followed Zuri home. Anonymous threats appeared in her mailbox. Even friends and family felt the pressure of his shadow. The judge's allies made it clear that Zuri was no longer safe, and the consequences for crossing him could be fatal. Despite the danger, Zuri remained determined. She moved in with a close friend to stay hidden and took extra precautions to keep her evidence safe. Every day was a battle between hope and fear. She was aware that one wrong move could end everything. The tension reached a breaking point one night when Zuri disappeared. Her apartment was found in disarray, and her phone was abandoned in a nearby storm drain. Friends and family were thrown into panic, and police launched a desperate search. The silence that followed was deafening. Crane acted as if nothing had happened, maintaining his public image of control and innocence. But behind his calm facade, fear and guilt gnawed at him. The woman who threatened to destroy him was gone, and no one knew where. The pieces were falling into place for a tragedy that no one saw coming. A tragedy born from secrets, lies, and a battle for power that would shatter lives forever. The news of Zuri's disappearance sent shockwaves through the city. Friends, family, and co-workers were frantic, searching for any clue to her whereabouts. The police launched an investigation, but the trail was cold from the start. Her apartment showed signs of a struggle, furniture overturned, broken glass on the floor, and personal belongings scattered as if someone had left in a hurry or been forced out. Her phone, a crucial tool for communication, was found discarded in a storm drain near the courthouse. It was a baffling clue that raised more questions than answers. The authorities treated the case as a missing person investigation, but suspicion lingered around Judge Crane. His powerful position made it difficult to openly accuse him without concrete evidence. The judge himself appeared unaffected in public, calm, composed, and continuing his work without interruption. To the outside world, nothing had changed. Yet behind the scenes, the stakes were rising dangerously high. Days turned into weeks, and the city's attention began to fade. The media briefly touched on the story, focusing on the judge's spotless public record and the ongoing police search. However, the mystery of Zuri's disappearance was far from over. The journalist she had contacted earlier, sensing a deeper story, continued to dig for information, quietly piecing together the fragments Zuri had left behind. Then, the unthinkable happened. A hiker found a body in a shallow grave near a riverbank outside the city. The discovery reignited the investigation with urgency. Forensic experts confirmed the body was that of Zuri Malone. The autopsy revealed she had been pregnant when she died, and that her death was caused by blunt force trauma. The news shocked the community and sparked outrage. Questions flooded in. Who wanted her dead? How had such a crime happened under the watch of a powerful judge? The media frenzy intensified as reporters uncovered new details about Zuri's life and her relationship with Judge Crane. But the most important breakthrough came when a friend of Zuri's recovered her laptop. Hidden deep within its files was a folder titled, "In Case I Die." It contained a detailed record of her time with Crane, audio recordings of their conversations, photos, court documents exposing bribery, and a journal describing the emotional turmoil she endured. The folder was damning. It painted a picture of a man who had used his power to manipulate and threaten Zuri, silencing her with fear and intimidation. The evidence suggested that her death was not random, but a calculated act to protect a secret. The police reopened the investigation, this time treating it as a homicide. Pressure mounted on law enforcement to act quickly, especially as public trust in the justice system wavered. The city demanded answers, and the veil of silence around Judge Crane began to unravel. Crane's allies started to distance themselves. The judge, once untouchable, was now the subject of intense scrutiny. The scandal forced many to confront uncomfortable truths about corruption and abuse of power within the system. For Zuri's family, the evidence was bittersweet. Finally, proof of the nightmare she had lived, but also the confirmation that justice would be a difficult road. The story of Zuri Malone became more than just a tragedy. It was a rallying cry, a symbol of the dangers faced by those who dared to challenge the powerful. The revelations sparked calls for reform, transparency, and accountability within the courts. Yet, despite the evidence, many questions remained. How far did the corruption go? Who else was involved? And could Zuri's death truly bring down a man as powerful as Judge Matthew Crane? The answers would come slowly, but the truth was now impossible to ignore. The revelations from Zuri's laptop sent shockwaves through the legal community and the public alike. The recordings and documents exposed a web of deceit and corruption that had long been hidden beneath Judge Crane's respected facade. No longer shielded by his position, Crane found himself under intense investigation, facing charges that could destroy everything he had built. Authorities acted swiftly. Crane was arrested on multiple counts, including murder, obstruction of justice, and corruption. His home and office were searched thoroughly, uncovering evidence of bribes, illegal dealings, and secret communications that implicated not only him, but several other influential figures. The carefully constructed empire of power he had maintained was crumbling rapidly. The trial that followed captivated the nation. For months, the courtroom became a battleground between the forces of justice and the remnants of corruption. Prosecutors presented the damning evidence gathered from Zuri's files, her recordings, messages, and documents, painting a vivid picture of Crane's manipulation and abuse of power. The recordings of his threats against Zuri shocked the jury and the public, revealing the dark man behind the judge's robe. Crane's defense tried to discredit Zuri's evidence, portraying her as unstable or motivated by revenge. But the weight of truth was undeniable. Witnesses came forward, former colleagues, whistleblowers, and even insiders from Crane's own circle, who corroborated the claims of bribery and coercion. The courtroom drama unfolded with moments of tension, unexpected twists, and emotional testimonies. Zuri's mother attended the trial every day, a quiet figure of strength amid the storm. Though her daughter's life was taken too soon, she fought tirelessly to ensure that Zuri's voice was heard. The trial became not just about punishing a corrupt judge, but about honoring Zuri's courage and sacrifice. When the verdict finally came, it was a moment of reckoning. Crane was found guilty on all counts and sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The judge who once wielded the power to decide others' fates was now himself condemned by the very justice system he had corrupted. The impact of the case extended far beyond Crane's imprisonment. The scandal exposed systemic flaws within the judiciary and law enforcement, sparking investigations into other judges, officials, and practices. Calls for reform grew louder, demanding transparency, accountability, and protections for those who dared to expose wrongdoing. The courthouse where Crane had once held court underwent symbolic changes. A plaque was installed in Zuri's memory, a reminder of the cost of silence and the power of truth. Her story inspired others to speak out against abuse and corruption, encouraging a new generation to demand fairness and integrity. Though Zuri never lived to see justice served, her bravery and determination changed the course of many lives. The tragedy that began with a forbidden affair ended with the fall of a man who had thought himself untouchable. Her legacy became a beacon of hope and a stark warning that no one, no matter how powerful, is above the law. In the end, the story of Zuri Malone and Judge Matthew Crane was more than a scandal. It was a testament to the strength of one voice against a system built to protect the powerful. It showed that truth, even in the darkest circumstances, could break through and bring light to hidden shadows.